Also related to the 2020 election, there's a long-standing complaint alleging criminal wrongdoing on the part of 10 Republicans in Wisconsin who, following Joe Biden's victory, convened as presidential electors for Donald Trump. Attorneys with Law Forward call these people fraudulent electors who cast their votes for Trump and mailed certificates of votes to Congress for Wisconsin's electoral votes to be counted on January 6th for the losing candidate. The complaint over the erroneous electors is sitting with the Wisconsin Elections Commission, one of whose Republican commissioners was among the 10. Attorney Jeff Mendal is lead counsel at Law Forward and brought this complaint. Why address this so long after the certification of the election with, parenthetically, the insurrection that it caused on January 6th?
Well, to be fair, the delay here is entirely on the part of the Elections Commission. We filed our complaint in February. It's been pending for nearly 10 months. We filed it in mid-February on President's Day. But regardless, what is so important is that this does get resolved. We can't allow the delay in adjudicating this to make people dismiss it as ancient history. Because as you have explained, what happened here was a deliberate effort to defraud the people of the choice that they made through their vote here in Wisconsin, and to defraud the Congress by fooling them. And that it is exactly that effort, these fraudulent papers that were submitted to Congress, that fueled the January 6th insurrection. There would have been no insurrection if people did not believe that there was a basis for asking Vice President Pence to choose one slate of electors over the other. These papers and this fraud, that's what created that possibility.
As we mentioned, one of the Republicans on the Wisconsin Elections Commission, Bob Spindell, was among those electors. At the commission's meeting last month, Spindell defended himself for his and others' action. Let's take a listen.
This was mandatory and necessary according to the Trump and RPW legal opinions to preserve Trump's record and the RPW position in these many federal and state cases that were swirling around Wisconsin at this time. And so should a case or two be found in favor of Trump, it was necessary to not have forfeited his rights for an appeal or whatever. I would have thought, and I'm sure it would have been malpractice on the part of any attorney, not to have the Trump campaign and RPW take all steps to preserve its records and options.
Commissioner Spindell says they were only trying to protect their options should Donald Trump prevail in any challenge to election results. What about that?
That's just not true. And that's not true for several reasons, Frederica. First, there were not, as Mr. Spindell says, many federal and state lawsuits swirling around. The courts had taken great pains to make sure that before the Electoral College met on December 14th, that those cases were resolved. The partial recount here in Wisconsin had been resolved all the way through the Wisconsin Supreme Court. The cases in federal court had been resolved. There was no further litigation that was necessary. Number two, and perhaps even more importantly, what the fraudulent electors here in Wisconsin did differs in kind from what happened in other states. In some other states, the electors met and they put at the beginning of their papers words that said, in the event that a court decides that there was something wrong with the election, this is how our state would cast its electoral votes. But that's not what happened here in Wisconsin. There was no such in case of emergency break glass clause at the beginning of these papers. These papers were deliberately designed to be identical in every respect to the actual papers casting the actual electoral votes that reflected the will of the voters in Wisconsin. They were designed to defraud the people, to confuse the Congress, and to create exactly the situation that led to the January 6th insurrection. That's what's wrong with them.
We will watch where this goes. We appreciate you describing it for us. Jeff Mendal, thanks very much.
Thank you, Frederick.